All right, so much has happened in the news this week. I'm so excited to talk about it somewhere. It's like I hold on to the information and keep my views very quiet on the internet until I get here so that we can talk about it in person. Did you hear that Skype is finally gone? And I'm so sad about it because that was the OG. For those who know, Skype was the wave. Like when it first came out, it was like, oh my God, video calling to people. And then it was like, oh, international calls? This is crazy. Like you love it. The sound, it's burned into my skull. The sound of a call that it would make, or even when it would load into the computer. And it officially shut down on May 5th. So RIP to a real one. Microsoft is actually transitioning users to Teams, which is not my favorite, but that's okay, urging them to migrate their contacts and data. This marks the end of an era for a platform that revolutionized online communications. Moment of silence for Skype, y'all. This actually brings up a good question, though, I will say. What does the shutdown of Skype say about the rapid evolution of digital communication tools? And what are we, like, what all has Skype put into place that we still use to this day, right? I think it's really interesting to consider how much of a pioneer Skype was in online communication, because Zoom would not exist without Skype, right? All right, so next things next. I was reading an article this week that was talking about our current president's controversial move, quote unquote, redefining history in the museums. So I got upset when I read this article, I'm not going to lie, because there's just so much already happening with our current administration that it would take more than an hour to go over all of the things. But this specific article was talking about this executive order mandate that will have the removal of exhibits and narratives deemed divisive or anti-American. And this is all in air quotes, by the way, for those of you just listening and not watching. From federal museums targeting institutions like the Smithsonian. The National Museum of African American History and Culture faces pressure to return loaned items and alter exhibits to align with the new directives. But civil rights groups are not letting this happen without a fight, and a lot of historians are mobilizing to protect and preserve Black history through digital archiving and grassroots efforts. I think it's really important that we pay attention to this and other stories like this, because with the erasure or the altered, like alternative universe is how I like to think of it, where people are not looking at history for historical fact, that raises so many more issues with how we go forward. The history really does help us define our future. So looking at this story, getting upset about what's happening, but having so much hope, because there are people who are saying, no, we're not going to allow this to happen. Pay attention to your local historians. If you have a museum that you love going to, or you've been to, you've taken your children, make sure that you are supporting these avenues that are supporting preserving history. And that's kind of my PSA on that, right? The bigger question is, what role do cultural institutions play in safeguarding history? Because it should be that history is what it is. It happened. We have to acknowledge it. We have to preserve the parts of it so that we can tell the story and have those stories to tell going forward. How can we make sure that that is the case and that people aren't changing history so that it can make to their own ego or make to their own stories, right? So yeah, that one was a little bit more heavy, but it's a very important conversation to have, y'all. I really cannot emphasize enough to check in with any of the institutions that are near you. I know in Los Angeles, we have a couple of museums that are doing a good job of preserving history, and how do we make sure that they stay safe while they're doing those things, right? Another thing that I'd read about this week, really interesting enough, our favorite guy, Bill Gates, who is a fortune teller of some sorts, envisions a 2-day work week, but psychologists are saying to sound the alarm. Two very different things happening simultaneously. Bill Gates suggests that advancements in AI could lead to a future where a 2-day work week becomes the norm. And while this may sound appealing, psychologists warn that reduced work hours could lead to a loss of purpose and identity for many individuals. I don't know about you, but I'm okay with a 2-day work week. Like, just give me the 2 days. I'm trying to get it all done, But the debate centers on finding a balance between technological process and maintaining meaningful human engagement in the workforce. And we have to beg that question a lot, especially when it comes to some of the other work that people don't really consider, like the blue collar jobs or the things that aren't as technical in the way that it's done. People aren't really asking the question on the broader sense. So I think it's important that we raise that question. How would you define your purpose in your work? A lot of people that I know don't really have a defined purpose in their work, but they know that they have a purpose in their life. So then the job becomes a way that they can focus on their own personal purpose, right? And it's a really interesting time to be in, because when you hear these type of stories, it assumes that people have jobs where they have purpose. So, and some people are just working to eat, and it's just like, no, I don't have no purpose in this. So yeah, take it over with AI. Who cares? But also give me an option to do something so that I can make sure that I feed my children, right? Okay, this story that I saw this week that really kind of raised my eyebrows a little bit, because I know people in this industry, is the self-driving 18-wheelers that have hit the road. Has anybody else seen this? It's so interesting because I already have like a little bias when it comes to the self-driving cars. I was one of the few people that was like, hey, it's going to be hard for these things to make left-hand turns. So how are we going to rely on this mode of transportation if it can't make critical decisions in critical moments? But now we're seeing the self-driving cars all over the city. It's insane to think about how many people are getting in the back of cars and getting transported without a driver. Like, I talked to my grandma about it. She said, I will never. But now we have the 18-wheeler that's self-driving. The name of it is Aurora. It's an autonomous freight company that has launched a self-driving truck operating between Dallas and Houston without a safety driver. The move marks a significant step in the commercialization of autonomous freight vehicles and technology as a whole, with potential implications for the trucking industry. Logistics as a whole is a very human-dense industry. Like, when you think about supply chain, there are a lot of moving parts in it, and it's so, I don't know. It's kind of scary to think that these are they're self-driving cars, but I also think about the stories where there have been a bunch of accidents because people were not allowed to take time off because they had a timeline, and they really just had to get to the destination in X amount of hours so that they can fulfill their contract. Does this self-driving vehicle replace the truck driver in a way that allows the truck driver to go do something more meaningful with their life? Right. And it's hard to say right now. And I'm interested to hear people's perspective who are in that industry to see what they say about what an autonomous 18-wheeler means to logistics. Right. So while the technology promises increased efficiency, it also raises concerns about job displacement and regulatory challenges. What should we be looking at as a consumer? What should we be looking at as people that work in these industries? It's a lot to think about there, because does this increase the price of goods because there's a technology that is now being implemented, right? Anytime they implement new systems or processes, it seems like there's some type of cost associated with that. So we have to look at these things and wonder, what is next? How are we going to adjust, and where do we go from here, right? All right, so more Donuts, Coffee, and Tech when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580. 1580. I'm your host, Danielle J, aka Danielle Johnson. If you want to join the conversation, call in right now, 1-800-920-1580. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, I am really excited about our special guest that we have in studio today. Let me tell you a little bit about her, because she is incredible. I was stalking you a little bit online. I'm not going to lie. I was looking into all of your profiles, and I was just so excited that you are our guest today. Let me tell you, she is a trailblazing product innovator who's made her mark at Splice and TikTok. She has a unique ability to turn ambiguity into opportunity. Her name is Chrystal Omotunde. She has led game-changing initiatives and enhanced user experiences to align with business goals across startups, mid-sizes, and enterprise organizations. She's a UC Berkeley graduate who brings deep expertise into product lifecycle management, project execution, and cross-functional collaboration. Known for her results-driven mindset and organizational prowess, Chrystal is also a dedicated mentor, sharing invaluable career insights with underrepresented communities in technology. Please help me in welcoming to the Donut Shop, Chrystal Omotunde. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Oh my goodness.
Hearing it back.
Yeah, it's always interesting when you're writing it or you have somebody write it. You're like, okay, cool. Make sure you just get all the angles.
Yeah.
And
you covered it.
Yeah, and when somebody else is reading it, you're like, you know what?
I did that.
And did.
I appreciate it. Hey, we're here.
So tell us a little bit about yourself for the people who are listening who have no idea who you are.
Yeah.
Give us like the short spill on who Chrystal is.
Yeah, I was born and raised in the Valley here, so SoCal native, and I've always found purpose in just meeting different people. I like to put myself out there a lot, go to networking events, do things that scare me is my big ethos. Mm-hmm. And I've always been in the tech space. I think just being at UC Berkeley, go Bears, it's inherent to stay in that funnel. So that led me into my first opportunity, which then led me to my next. And I think just always leading with purpose and finding things that continuously excite me. And here I am today with this opportunity.
That's right. So right now you're working with Splice.
Yes.
Tell us about that journey.
Yeah. So like every other journey, it really comes into, okay, what do I do next? I was at TikTok where I led the global initiative for the story feature. So I worked on everything from reposts, comments, friends tab, all the things, very organic interactions. And they laid off the entire organization. And in that moment, it was really, okay, let me take a break because this is the first time I've had a break in a while. And also let me reassess to see what are my values and what I find interesting. Mm-hmm. And I've never been in the music space before. Mm-hmm. Splice is a platform where musicians, creatives can come into the platform, find music, find different ways to enhance the music that they're currently making. So they call it a DAW platform. Mm-hmm. And really funneling into something new, which was really exciting to me, but still resonated with what I'm interested in. So that's kind of where I'm at today.
I love it. And what's really awesome about the work that you've done both at TikTok and Splice is that it really is encompassing of like the problem solver that you are, right?
Yeah.
Can you give us a little bit more into like what a day-to-day would look like in your role? Yeah.
So the biggest thing, I like to call myself a cross-functional conductor because I really am working within so many different teams. So engineers, I'm working with marketing, creator space, and really trying to make sure that our projects that we're working towards get to the collective goal, which is making those business needs. And so that's my favorite part of the day. And that would then lead to me working with these teams on a daily basis, whether it's sprint meetings and I'm saying, hey, what do blockers look like? How do we get to this deadline? It could be, hey, let me bend a different teammate to see if maybe we can swap some deadlines to figure things out. It's constantly fixing puzzle pieces get to that end goal.
That's right.
And so I would say that's how my day-to-day is really. Trying to figure out within this puzzle, how can I orchestrate it to make it smoothly to then get to those goals, and also which ways and methods I can think of to, again, work with the same people. It's a lot of leading with empathy and also gauging how other people work to get to those goals, because if you don't figure that out, nothing's going to get done.
And then people will be more closed off. They won't really give you the information that you need, or maybe
or make it very challenging to get to that goal.
Right. And it's like, help me help you.
We're helping you. But you think that sounds simple, and it's definitely not. So it's a matter of understanding how they like to communicate and how do we get to the finish line.
Absolutely. So I know you talk a lot about your ethos. Can you give us a little bit more detail and depth about that and why it's important to function with your ethos in mind? Yeah,
that's a good question. I think because I've been in orgs where very small startup to global companies, because I work with so many different partners, it's important to understand their working styles, how they like to communicate. And the way I work through that is, okay, I'd rather adapt to them versus them adapting to me, because that then builds relationships. It also builds trust. And I know that my relationships are always solid, so that I can always lean on them if I need something.
That's right.
Or again, if, hey, we need to move this around so we can get to this goal. Can we work together? And being able to build with that has been extremely helpful for me. So that's definitely always lead with that.
Yeah, no, I love that. So I was reading on, I think it was your LinkedIn profile where you're talking about ambiguity, right? So how do we go from being ambiguous to being a lot more concentrated in like either our role or what we're trying to do? Because you sound so succinct with like, oh no, I know what I'm providing. I know what I am and what I'm doing. How did you get from that kind of scary chaos into that super focus?
And it's interesting because I feel that ambiguity is such a buzzword in the tech space.
Yeah.
Oh, can you handle ambiguity? Yeah, I can, X, Y, and Z. But truly, it's really trying to understand the big picture of what your goals are, whether it's OKRs, whether it's these are the company metrics, this is how we're trying to meet them, and really trying to digest it in smaller bite-sized chunks.
Yeah.
So if this is the goal, okay, that seems very big. How do I know I need to talk to this person. Okay, that's one part of the puzzle.
Yeah.
I know I may need to do some strategy work. What does that look like? That's another part of the puzzle. And I think breaking it down into smaller pieces as you would big goals helps you, I guess, clear up the murky waters of that ambiguity.
Yeah.
And again, tapping into those resources that people that have been there for years or newer that may have more knowledge. And then that becomes info sharing and try to help each other still then get to that goal.
That's right.
We're still trying to get to that goal.
That's right. That's right. The goal in mind.
The goal is still there.
Goal in mind.
It's still there.
So what would you say to someone who is, working in technology, they're kind of in like this middle ground where they're trying to figure out like, what's next?
Yeah.
Right? Like, I know you take on a lot of mentorship roles.
Yes.
What would be something that you would tell someone who's trying to like break free of kind of that mundane middle?
Yeah. I have been in a space where I have had opportunities to be in a lot of startup culture just inherently with tech. And what I found is that because I work with so many different teams, whenever there's a team or specific tasks that interest me, I talk to those people even more. I ask them questions. I start to shadow a little bit to really understand what does your day-to-day look like.
Yeah.
And so I initially was in sales. I was cold calling. I was waking up 6 a.m, talking to people, getting hung up on. And that built a lot of thick skin.
Yeah.
And through that, I really appreciated how we come up with collateral, how do we come up with copy, which then led me to more interest in the marketing side.
Yes.
And so with that opportunity, I then got me into ad space, which I then learned, okay, how do we position certain brands? How do we bid and how that whole work stream works? And then that then interested me on the product side because I wanted to know how do we get from iteration to launch? And so through that, I wanted to see, okay, a lot of people are looking for certifications. A lot of people need this type of experience. And so I already had a lot of strengths at that role, started shadowing, built my own product, got backing to say, okay, we can continue this.
Wow.
And so I think it really is, no one's going to give it to you at the end of the day.
That's
you really,
true.
like you mentioned, you went to the radio show once a week to try to get in there, your first opportunity.
Yeah.
And you really have to be that person that opens the door for you to really get that opportunity, because if not, no one's going to hand it to you in any capacity. So.
It's so true. There's two things that I heard in what you just said.
Yeah.
One piece is the self-starter energy, right? But the other piece was networking.
Yes.
I heard a lot of that in there.
Yes.
Can you talk to us about like the power of networking?
Yeah.
And, like, how do you network? Like, what do you do? Do you just cold call these people? Because you talk about cold call.
No one picks up their phone anymore in 2025. However, networking is super important. I think I learned that very early on, especially in college. I was a part of this business entertainment club where we hosted professionals every month from different industries. So we would come in, we would outsource them on LinkedIn, and we'd have to come and speak to them and really just have your pitch ready.
Yeah.
And so that made me really comfortable. I took a lot of public speaking when I was in high school and college. And so, again, not everyone has those opportunities, but again, with the ethos of going to things that make you uncomfortable, I go to networking events by myself. I force myself to put my phone away, see if everyone's kind of in the same mindset. They're there for a reason.
Yeah.
So it's more of, okay, someone's also here. Let me see if I can connect with them.
Yeah.
And one thing I've always learned from a really good friend in college, when you're in spaces where you don't know anyone, introduce them to the people around you. Because even 2 weeks ago, I went to this African film networking event. And I met this girl and I met this man and I introduced them to each other. They went to Howard together and they had a cousin. They FaceTimed, all these things. So just continuously introducing people to one another makes such a difference.
That is so good.
Forcing myself to do those things and also just staying curious and wanting to know about people's lives. So I continuously push myself to do that.
Okay, so for the introvert, because technology has a lot of introverts, right? What is something that the introvert can do if they are just getting started into networking? Like, what would be maybe a line that they could use? And not a pickup line,
That's such a good question. I guess for the introverts, there's so many opportunities, even if it's not in face-to-face networking.
Right.
There's a lot of communities on LinkedIn. There's a lot of groups, a big also tech groups. So from Afrotech to Render, ATL, there's so many groups that you can just find on LinkedIn. Yeah. And then they share opportunities that are in your areas. And again, I think it's just pushing yourself out there. It doesn't have to be every week. It doesn't have to be every day, every month. But at least pushing yourself out there to try it.
Yes.
You don't have to be there all night. Just a few minutes, 30 minutes to an hour, give it a try. And then at least if it's one person, it's still success.
That's
if
right.
you get one LinkedIn, it's a success.
That's right. Okay, so May is Mental Health Awareness Month.
Yes.
the question that I've been asking our guests this month is like, what are you doing to make sure that you are prioritizing your mental health or setting healthy boundaries or setting yourself up for success in such a ever-changing place, which is technology?
Yeah, such a good question. And I think the two things that come to mind are, it's a funny name, but I call it Exfoliating Wednesdays, which every Wednesday since COVID, I've taken time to just unwind slowly before the day ends. So that could be lighting a candle, listening to music, and just taking care of my body and just taking more time and not just saying, I need a shower, go to bed, right? And just being more mindful with that. I've done that since 2020, and I look forward to it every Wednesday. On the other side of that, I utilize my benefits and use therapy. I have a therapist who's a Black woman who's based in LA as well, and I see her twice a month, and that could just be this annoyed me, or hey, let's talk more critically about something that may have happened. So I always feel, especially in those moments where I don't want to burden my friends potentially of all of this load of all the things in life when everyone's going through something. So it's been a great outlet. I also journal. I have this 5-year journal, which has 5 lines, and it's not so daunting. It's not a full page. You write out 5 lines that happen in your day, keep it pushing. Next year, I get to reflect on that in that current day. Yes. So just a few things that help, and getting a lot of rest.
That's right. That's right. Well, we'll continue this conversation when we come forward with more Donuts, Coffee, and Tech on KBLA Talk 1580. We got a lot more to talk about.
Sounds good.
Welcome forward, fam. You're listening to Donuts, Coffee, and Tech on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm your host, Danielle J., guiding you through the latest in social media, mindset, and monetization. Dial in at 1-800-920-1580 to join the conversation. We have in the studio live Chrystal Omotunde. Thank you so much for being here. And we're about to get into our Tech Tip in 10. This is a segment where we really just talk about a tool that our listeners can use throughout the week. Because we have mental health awareness at the forefront, but we're also just delighted to have you here on the show to talk more about like connection and going from ambiguity into certainty and all these different things. I thought it would be relevant to talk about networking because you talked about it a little bit in the interview portion of our show. So do you use LinkedIn groups?
Yes. So I lightly. And I also use Eventbrite. I bounce around.
Okay, good.
I bounce around. Again, the similar ethos of not just pigeonholing myself. I really tried to a lot of WhatsApp groups as well. So there's diaspora groups. There's specific Black in Tech groups. I also lean into the hashtags Black in Tech, Women in Tech, and see what funnels that way.
That's right.
There's so many ways to find them, but there are quite a few that I am a part of on LinkedIn.
Absolutely. I love that they have this option for groups on LinkedIn too, because it's a professional setting. You know what you're getting out of it. It's just like you spoke to earlier, where you go to a networking event and where you could be afraid of being around people. It's like, oh, wait, we're all here to meet people. So this is the perfect place for this.
And they filter before adding people in, too.
Absolutely. So. Oh, thank goodness for the filter. Because I know the spam bots back in the day were horrible. Now it's even worse.
Yeah, they're getting good.
I mean, clever.
Yeah.
Clever as they want to be.
So it's another environment.
You know, something else to navigate. But, you know, I wanted to talk about LinkedIn groups because it's a hidden gem where tech professionals can connect, share, and thrive together. Because when we build inclusion and belonging, we're not just boosting our careers, we're taking care of our mental health too. So let's explore how joining the right community on LinkedIn can be a game changer in your professional journey. So the first, we already talked about the networking, right? There's a lot of industry insight that happens in these groups too. I love when they have somebody who's been in the industry for, longer than I've been alive. And they're like, hey, this trend that you're talking about, this new now, already happened. And this is how we went about it. And this is where you can learn from our mistakes, right? Love that part of it.
Definitely.
Job postings.
Yes. That haven't been posted yet also.
That.
Referrals.
Because there'll be like recruiters in these groups. That have the insight they know. So they're trying to like get like warm leads before they actually post it to the rest of the public.
And they want to see people look like them. So that's another thing.
That's the other thing. Absolutely.
Definitely.
And last but not least, skill development. Because I've seen a lot of like certification opportunities and like workshop opportunities and different things of that nature.
A lot of workshops, a lot of online workshops. Free ones as well.
Yes.
Plenty.
Favorite word.
Yeah.
Free. 99.
Even better for the introvert.
I think it's really important to be a part of these different groups so that you can get like different experiences.
Definitely.
But if you get into some really good ones that are in exactly what you want to do, you could really maximize. The other side of this, though, is you have to participate.
Yes.
You can't just go in and be like, oh, I'm just going to take everything out of here and it's just whatever.
Yeah.
That does no good for you or the community.
Correct.
Right? I'm like, when we talked about ethos, my ethos is to leave a place better than which I found it.
I love that.
And if that is an online community, I'm thinking of how can I share resources or tools that I haven't seen in here already, or maybe even add to the conversation so that somebody can have a different perspective, things of that sort.
I love that.
And I love it because
it makes a difference.
I leave better than when I came.
Exactly. It's a win-win.
So the power of online communities, I mean, everyone kind of knows it, but just to kind of, put the nail in the coffin here. Yeah. In the digital age, online communities play a pivotal role in professional development and career advancement. They provide a platform for individuals to connect, share knowledge, and support each other. Yeah. There's enhanced visibility where you might have a really strong resume and your LinkedIn profile is cool. Mm-hmm. Your voice really does shine when you're having these conversations in these groups.
Yeah, 100%.
And that visibility is just, it's almost like a free ad on yourself.
I mean, there have been times where I look at the directory and see people at big tech companies, small tech, whatever industry that's interested. I reach out and I say, hey, quick conversation, or even can you analyze my resume? Mm-hmm. And they're more than not willing to help. And that's another thing, is asking for help is so important. Yes. People are already a part of this community, so they're there for a reason.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not, they're choosing to be there, so it's even a better opportunity to ask someone for that help and them helping you, and whether it's a referral or anything like that.
Absolutely. And speaking of opportunity, the access, right? Like we said, there are people that are actually looking for people to connect with certain opportunities. So this access is great. Yep. Continuous learning because of all the different things that LinkedIn has built into its platform.
Exactly.
In addition to what people are bringing to these communities. Yep. I love that you said to ask questions because a lot of people are really afraid to do that.
Yeah. And I think that's also going back to my sales mentality of just getting no's. I'd rather try than not and just go back. Oh, I wish I would have. I wish instead of just doing it. Because people are willing to help. That's another thing. I get a lot of LinkedIn messages saying, hey, can we talk about your career, X, Y, and Z? That's where I was at 3-4 years ago. I spoke to at least 15, 20 people, from PMMs, which is product marketing managers, to product managers, PMs, trying to discern, okay, what are the differences? Because I could read a job posting, but I could talk to people that have lived the experience.
That's right.
And so that helped me discern, okay, PMM is maybe not what I want to do, but I'm more so interested in PM work.
Yes.
And I've talked to people from different tech spaces, from small company to enterprise. There are some trends here, and that is something I want to lean into. So again, reaching out, asking, and hope for the best.
That's right. That's right. I mean, I think you've really summed that up really well, where it's like you have to connect with the industry experts. You have to connect with your peers. Because without these people who are already in it, living it, having that experience, how else do you learn about it if you're not already in it?
And you can't do it alone.
Yeah. There's I don't know who coined it, but they said if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
Yeah.
And I feel like that is really what technology is. It's solely about the community.
And the corny, there's no I in team situation.
Yeah.
It's just like, you can't be individualistic. You have to be group focused and see if you can work within those teams that you potentially can lean into.
That's crazy. I've been misspelling team this whole time. It's definitely an I in team. No, just kidding.
Let me write that down.
It's silent. It's TIE.
There you go. I missed that.
Just kidding. No. And then last but not least, collaborating on projects, right?
Yeah.
Because let's say somebody is working on something that's focused in an area that you want to get into. Yep. Like I'm interested in data science.
Okay.
I love data science because you take data and you make the stories and you connect these two languages essentially.
Ambiguity.
The ambiguity. Come on now. It is a whole word today. But you connect these two different worlds together, right. And you can speak from experience with this too because of your role, right? Yep. But what if there's a data scientist who's working on a project and they want people to take surveys or they want people to help with the beginning part of the story? Yeah. I can get that opportunity on the LinkedIn group. Yeah. And then I get to put that on my resume that I worked on a project, right? And I'm just like, oh, this is I love LinkedIn groups, as you can hear.
Very similar to the, how people are like, oh, my 9 to 5 or my 5 to 9 after my 9 to 5. There's so much opportunity that can even go outside of the workday. It's just wanting to put the effort to do that.
Yes.
So you saying the project, I did a project individually at my prior company, and that was still within my 9 to 5, but you could do so many things where you can build an app, you can work with a different team, you volunteer. There's people say no, but there's opportunity out there, and you really just have to be open to pushing through those boundaries and opening that door and having someone hand that to you and get that done.
Absolutely. And just ask more questions.
And ask questions.
Because there's so much opportunity in curiosity.
Exactly. It gets you far.
Yeah.
Stay curious.
Stay curious, my friends.
Yep.
Stay curious.
Always.
All right. So more Donuts, Coffee, and Tech when we come forward on the unapologetically progressive KBLA Talk 1580. If you're just now tuning in, you made it for the secret ingredient segment where we season your soul with stories that stick. And today's dish is about feeling stuck. Listen, if you've ever been staring at your life like an old GPS screen saying recalculating, this one's for you. Let's be honest. Nobody talks about the part of the journey where you're not new anymore, but you're not where you thought you'd be either. That in between, that I'm doing all the things and nothing's clicking moment, that I got the degree, my LinkedIn profile is popping, I have a side hustle, I bought the planner, but somehow I'm still feeling stuck season. And let me tell you, it's disorienting. You start asking questions like, dang, am I behind? Did I miss a sign or something? Is it too late to become a flight attendant or a florist? But here's the truth, fam. You're not stuck. You're just in the middle, and the middle gets messy, but it's also so necessary. Think about it. The middle is where your character is tested. The middle is where your faith gets legs. The middle is where the glow up actually starts, quietly behind the scenes. Now, I know we love a good destination. We love an announcement, guess who just got promoted post, or a launch, or a new title. We treat milestones like mountaintops. But let's be very clear here. There's no finish line. There's just checkpoints. And every checkpoint you pass, that's a piece of momentum. That's growth. And another tool in your toolkit for what's next. Just because you don't see the results doesn't mean that you're not building muscle. Just because nobody's clapping right now doesn't mean that it isn't working. And just because your job feels off doesn't mean that the journey is. Let me give you some real world context. Sometimes God puts you in a job that you hate just long enough to learn the skills that you need to run your own thing later. And I could speak from experience. I never knew why I needed to learn how to make MySpace pages back in 2004, but that skill helped me become a web developer and later a programmer. Sometimes the delayed reward is making space for you to finish the healing that you didn't know that you needed. Sometimes that random freelance gig is the connector to your next move. You just haven't met the right person yet. Being stuck can encourage some of our greatest creativity too. Have you ever been stuck and started fantasizing about the weirdest backup plans? Like, maybe I should move to Bali and become a full-time plant-based candle maker. Or what if I just got a van and started a YouTube channel called Van Life and Vibing? Or maybe I could marry rich and run a wellness treatment for dogs. I'm not going to lie to you. I've Googled all three of those. But listen, the fantasy isn't the solution. The solution is always moving forward. Because even if it's slow, even if it's silent, even if it's sideways, forward momentum will always get you where you're trying to go. Let me remind you of this. You're not late. You're in alignment. You're not lost. You're just learning. You're not stuck. You are being shaped. And when that next checkpoint hits, when the fog clears, you'll realize you weren't stuck and you were getting ready. So here's your secret ingredient takeaway for today. The journey is the reward. I know we hate hearing that. We hate hearing that because it minimalizes where we're trying to get. But listen closely. The journey is the reward. The lessons live in the middle. So you have to go through it to get to it. There is no final destination, only a series of steps designed to launch you forward. Where you are right now, this is not a pause, it's a pivot. It's a prep zone. And trust me, you're way closer than you think. This has been the secret ingredient segment where we can get your life together in less than 5 minutes. So if you're in that, what am I doing with my life season? Take a breath. Keep moving, keep trusting, and stop comparing your middle to somebody else's highlight reel. Forward is forward always. More Donuts, Coffee, and Tech when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580. What up, fam? Welcome forward. This is Donuts, Coffee, and Tech with Danielle J on KBLA Talk 1580. Man, oh man. If you were not here, you missed out on a lot. Here's what went down. Oh my goodness. So we had all of the goodness that is wrapped up in an hour show. Okay. We talked about everything from Skype, RIP to a real one, to the controversial moves that our current administration is taking when it comes to taking out Black history in museums. We talked about Bill Gates giving us a 2-day work week, which I'm okay with. We also talked about 18-wheelers that drive themselves. We talked to the lovely Chrystal Omotunde, and she gave us a whole bunch of insight, which she's still in the building. Do you have anything that you want to plug, Chrystal?
I'm happy to connect with anyone on LinkedIn. My name is Chrystal Omotunde, so Chrystal. Omotunde is Omotunde. Happy to connect.
Yay! That's so exciting.
Yeah.
And y'all connect with her, please.
Please, happy to have a conversation.
I love it. I mean, if you couldn't tell by the conversation that we had here that she's willing to talk to y'all, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. You got to go back and listen to the replay tomorrow at 2 o'clock because there's a lot in this episode.
Gems were dropped.
Yeah, gems were dropped. I love it. Crystals were dropped.
I love that. I'm going to use that.
We're trying.
Okay.
Yeah, today's monologue was about the messy middle and how to navigate that energy because it does feel overwhelming sometimes, right? Like, I don't know. I can speak from my own experience of like feeling stuck and feeling like, well, dang, what's next?
Yeah.
And not giving love to the things that have already transpired or even the moment that I'm in that moment.
Yeah,
and it's just like,
yeah,
it's so crazy how I was talking to my grandmother and she told me something really interesting because she's 89.
Oh, wow.
She says, when you get older, the moment that we're in right now isn't as relevant as the things that happened in the past.
Yeah.
Like you're doing so much reflection on the things that happened in the past. And I feel like when you're moving in your career, sometimes that happens too, because you start thinking about all the things you didn't get to accomplish or maybe
the ruminating.
You know, and then you're like looking behind you, looking forward, but you're not like in the moment.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you pop it.
It's hard to do. Sometimes I forget, which when you were reading out the bio, oh, right, I did those things.
Right?
Acknowledgement. So
everybody
important.
should be a guest on Donuts, Coffee, and Tech at least once.
Yeah.
Because
I'll
hype you up.
Very well.
Remind
gracefully.
you. Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Yeah, this has been such a great episode talking about the messy middle too, that I feel like we should have you back on.
I'd love to.
So we could talk about, any and everything that happens in your role, but also just what's been going on in your career.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Happy to have it.
Yay.
Yeah, let's do it.
Look, we got it on air, y'all.
There's proof.
This is our verbal contract.
Yeah. I stick to my word and I say yes to a lot of things and get those opportunities. So I'm here for it.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Thank you, Danielle. I appreciate it.
Oh, of course. Mental Health Awareness Month is still going. The month of May is a long away from being over.
Yeah.
Even though it's moving fast, it's not. So make sure that everyone who is listening, take care of your mental health. Make sure that you are setting up healthy boundaries.
Yeah.
Because saying no is okay too.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
And these different ways that you're going about challenging yourself to get new opportunities, you can do it in short stints. You don't have to, give it 110% every time.
Yeah.
Right?
Building blocks.
That's right.
Yeah.
One step at a time.
Yes.
What is one of my friends, he says this all the time. He's like, little by little.
Yeah, you have to.
And I think that's like the best way to go about any and everything, especially when it comes to putting your mental health first.
Yes.
Right? We got into some of our ethos. We got into a whole bunch of stuff, y'all. Too much to just ramble off because you didn't catch the whole show.
Exactly.
Tune in tomorrow for the replay. Sunday, 2 p.m. Also, KBLA 1580 is the app in the App Store, whether you're on Android, on Apple, or Google, because Google has their own thing or whatever.
They do.
It's so wild. I'm about to make a phone next week. How about that? All right. So listen, make sure you follow myself on all the socials at the Danielle J, and stay connected with Donuts, Coffee, and Tech as we're navigating these conversations. Next week, we have another amazing guest coming on. I'll promote that on our social media channels so that you can see exactly who that is, because it's a little bit of a surprise, but it's also somebody I'm really excited to talk to. Another person who I stalked online for a little bit.
Okay, I'll be tuned in.
That's what I'm saying. You gotta tune in. You gotta tune in. All right, so listen, you're listening to KBLA Talk 1580. You want to stay tuned so that you can get your dose of entertainment news with Jill Monroe. I've been Danielle J with the wonderful Chrystal Omotunde in the building. We've been talking about mindset, digital success, and I'm helping you transform your strategy into mindset with digital success in mind. We'll see you next weekend.